to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Nancy Robles, President of Eastern Funding. Thanks for joining me, Nancy.
Thank you for having me. I love being here, and I'm so happy. I feel so privileged for you to invite me again.
I know, right? Just before we hit record, I was going back. We were trying to figure out, you know, the first Fireside that we did in April of 2021. I think that was the first time you and I actually spoke
Yes,
before.
that was like a million years ago, but yes.
Yeah, and a lot's changed, both professionally for both of us, but especially for you. So just wanted to kind of, you know, go into your kind of introduction here, Nancy, and talk about what's kind of new for you and your career and what's new at Eastern Funding, and just have a conversation like we did a couple of years ago. We'll see if this one gets more hits than the last one. So
Absolutely. So much has changed. A lot has changed and a lot hasn't changed at all. I was promoted to president September of last year, so almost a year ago. And that was really unexpected and welcomed, but unexpected. And it's taken me a little while to adjust to my new position, the new responsibilities, and not just me, I think the entire organization. Michael Fanger, the CEO, has been the only president since the inception of the company. So
how
suddenly
long has
I
the
took
company
on,
and how long has the company been around?
well, since 1997. So if you
Okay,
think about that and you think about how he he has been the CEO and president the entire time, and then there's this huge adjustment to having this other person come in as president, and that he adjustment for both of us and everyone at the
sure.
company. For him, he's the CEO now. What does that look like? For me, I'm president now. What does that look like? And then for everyone else to have these two people work together to navigate, to help the company navigate our the current environment. It's a very different the culture and environment for us is a significant change for everyone. For me personally, though, it was first, oh my God, this is real, I can't believe it. And then once I was able to absorb it and process it, it was like, okay, how does this look? What do I do now? How there's no role model here to look at, so I have to create this new space for myself, and also figure out what that means for the organization. How am I going to steer the ship, as they say, and work with Mike on this new capacity? So it's been a really interesting a time unfolding of all these new ideas and
Sure.
situations and roles. But it's been amazing and wonderful. I'm so excited. And, Michael, I have to say, I just want to publicly thank him, not just because, not for promoting me, but I mean, that obviously, but he's just one of the few people that has ever really um like he saw potential. He saw my potential a long time
Sure.
ago, and he's believed in me and trusted me, which trust to me is the most important value that I hold. I mean, I hold trust above everything else. And he has trusted me with his baby, and I will always appreciate that so much.
No, no, and well deserved, promotion. So when you mentioned it almost a year ago, I was like, "That's amazing! Congratulations!" But
Thank
it's
you.
not just learning that new role. I believe sometime in 2022, you guys also made an acquisition. So you're
Mhm.
merging companies, systems.
Yes, yes,
So,
we did. We acquired Macrolease, which was a sister company. We were both under the same corporate parent, right, so to speak, and owned by two different banks under that corporate parent, and then we acquired them. And yes, there was another one of those things where I said, okay, I'll do it, but I've never done it before. I've certainly been in companies that were acquired or went through mergers, but I've never been the person in charge. So that was definitely interesting learning experience. Um, it's challenging. It is very there's no, it's like parenting. There's no manual, although there's so much research and so much advice, but
Sure.
because there's the
Sure.
human component, right? There's the
Yeah.
hard work of the systems, and is everything working right? The procedures, the process, how do we get all that go, the part of the compliance part of it, right? Because we're federally regulated, so there's a lot of compliance to think about. But then the people component is always the most challenging one, the cultures and all that stuff, and how do you get that right, and how do you prioritize that while you're doing all the other work, and it's a very short window of time. So it was definitely an amazing learning experience for all of us.
Sure.
And it
Sure.
was bumpy like any other new challenge, right? Conversions are bumpy, everything is bumpy in this business, but I think we're in an amazing place right now.
That's awesome. No, I mean, it seemed to go relatively seamless from, just from my perspective and our casual conversations every now and then. So that's
Mhm.
awesome. I know that stuff is never easy, and it's can be uncomfortable for employees, but it's nice to see when things work out the right way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was, I think for everyone, it was, there's so much has changed over the past few years, right? I mean, we feel like COVID is so far behind us, but it's still, I mean, it changed the entire environment,
Sure.
work environment, everything from how people interact, it impacted everyone's mental health is so much. And I don't think that we stop and give it as much credit for all the changes that it did, force us into. And then you add these big things like companies changing, and even systems and all these other things that are constantly happening, right? These are
Sure.
things that are happening in real life every day. Um, it's hard to put all that, to conceptualize it into, the experience of people and how they adjust to all these changes and all these unknowns. Because it's really what it is. The complications of mergers and acquisitions or business deals are all about the change and how it impacts us as humans and how we're able to adjust how quickly. So yeah, I mean, it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience and
Sure.
opportunity to be involved.
Sure.
But it was challenging for sure.
Sure.
Can't take that away.
Yeah. Well, and then I guess while we're talking about, the aftermath of COVID, so they were on Long Island. You had an office in New York. I think you're home in Jersey right now. Is that a safe assumption?
Mhm. Yep.
So, what does that back to work look like? Like how frequently is that Long Island team in the office all the time? Are you like what does your work situation look like now from a team perspective, Nancy?
Well, we're hybrid,
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
About 35% of our employees are fully remote, and those are people that just mostly live outside of a commuting distance.
Sure.
And they're mostly sales, which has always been the case. Sales is always, and we have a national presence, so we have sales all over the country. And that's
Sure.
predominantly the people who are fully remote. Everyone else is some type of hybrid program. What we've done is Long Island, we have two offices in Long Island. We have macro lease and we have a specialty vehicle. And so the challenge there was getting all of Eastern funding pre-COVID was already completely set up to be 100% remote. We were completely
Okay.
paperless. We
Okay.
had all the infrastructure. So before there was even a state of emergency, we were all working from home, and we
Okay.
realized that there was something that luckily we had the forethought to be prepared. The Mercury's office, they still had a lot of paper, a lot of manual stuff, a lot of other things that impacted their ability to work 100% remotely. So they were in the office before we were. And so we've continued that. So most of the departments, with the exception of like finance, they come into the office at least twice a week. And what we've done is we've tried to be intentional about the time we spend together, not just say everyone has to be in 3 times a week, but whenever you want. but
Sure.
more we're actually having people come in teams. So we have, for example, our documentation team comes in twice a week. In New York City, we have Eastern Funding Corps. In Long Island, we have specialty and macro lease folks that go into their respective offices. The same thing with credit, customer service. So we've rolled it out over time to give people the opportunity to adjust to, a lot of people it's not that they got comfortable, but it was more about childcare and other responsibilities that people had to adjust to being home, right? Fully remote
Right.
for a couple of
Okay.
years. And that now we have to unravel that and adjust to having kids go to daycare again or whatever it might be. So we did roll that out slower in the New York City office because that is a different commute and a different experience for people. And we have people that live in New Jersey, Connecticut, and different parts of New York that go into that office. In Long Island, we also have mostly twice a week, but the office is always open. You can go in more frequently if you want to.
Sure.
But yeah, but it seems to be working. We people when they go in it with their team, and sometimes like we'll have all of originations in the office at once, and so that really creates um those relationships that we want, and that the synergy and the learning on as you go, right? So the conversations where somebody says, oh, I have this deal, this is happening, and then someone else chimes in, and then suddenly there's a learning moment that unfolds organically. Now,
Sure.
that's what we want. That's what we're looking forward to. That's the whole point of being in person, right? And those
Yeah.
relationships and those learning moments. And so that's what we have been very intentional about, making sure the right people are there together instead of just people there for the sake of being there.
Perfect. No, makes
Mhm.
complete sense. Otherwise, like, what are we really trying to achieve here, other than having someone maybe pay a toll they don't have to pay?
Right. And then the chaos. And look, I'll tell you, I commuted an hour and a half each way for 15 years. And when I look back on it and the quality of my life,
Sure.
I think about how did I even survive that? How did my family, my kids, I have 5 children, and it was such an experience for them to mom leaves at 7, comes back at 7 p.m. That's it. That's on a regular day. If there's a bad day, if something's going on, my oldest daughter always says that the worst things that she could hear coming out of my mouth is, we have an audit or a conversion. She says, I hear those two things. They would give me a headache because I knew mom was under so much stress. So, looking back at that, and I know it impacts every person in the same
Sure.
way.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been remote for what, 12 years now, but I've typically
Wow.
always been on the business development side.
Hmm.
So, if those people are doing it,
Hmm.
their job or not.
Exactly. Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah. And a lot of it, for sales is about the relationships that sales is promoting is with the customer, right? But if you work in originations, docs, credit, funding, loan servicing, all those people, a lot of their relationships are internal. And so
yeah.
being in the same space, sharing those moments of, what they call the water cooler conversations and lunch together, and that I think is critical for them and their learning and development.
No. So 12 months into being president, lessons learned. Is it kind of one of those things like, oh yeah, I got it, you know, crap. Like, is it like, is it almost like be careful what you like earned or wish for sometimes?
Well, I tell you what, it's so funny because I have a coach, and she asked me a few years back, she was like, what are your goals? And one of my goals was to be CEO of a company someday. And I never thought Eastern Funding would be that company though, because the succession plan was clear, and it didn't seem like there was a path for me um in that sense. And so, and I mean, keeping it real, woman of color, it's just not the typical, right? And so I didn't really expect that it would ever happen. I had no, like, just no expectations, right? And I just didn't think it was attainable. And so when Michael approached me about it, and he talked about it for a while before it actually happened, I thought, this, I don't know, this doesn't seem real, right? It was one of those things, too much. I don't know if it's real. Is it, is it just kind of, I want to keep you interested. I want to keep you here.
Sure.
I was chief operating officer. The person who was my boss, who was the original succession plan, I believe, he left the company. And so, but I didn't consider that I would be, the backup succession plan, so to speak. And so when it happened, honestly, it took me a long time to recognize that it was real, to really process it, to fully understand that, yes, it stops with me. I am the person running the company. Because Michael's very clear, he wants to be the visionary, and which he always has been. As long as I've been with Eastern Funding, he's always been pushing us to do things to, the technology and products, and he's always been the person who thinks outside the box and pushes us. And I've been more of the implementer. And so, it really complements our relationship in that sense.
Sure.
But I just didn't know what that would look like. And so, yeah, it took me a little while, but most recently, I think I've been able to fully grasp, okay, no, yeah, I am the decision maker. I'm the final, I'm the, sort of, taking it
Yeah.
in and and
No,
and, and helping us, and we're very much a team. We don't, there's is not an autocratic sort of leadership. We're very much, I'm very much a transformational leader where I want to lead people and get them to, and I believe in having the experts in the room. I believe that I know that I don't know everything. I
sure.
I feel like I lead people and I lead the conversation rather than I tell people what to do, right? It's like
Right.
I challenge them. Okay, is that really what we want to do? And I'm going to challenge you a little bit. And is that the final decision? So I say that all the time. I'm going to challenge you because I believe that I have the right people in the room and I can push them to
Sure.
be their best selves. And that's sort of my role. But it did take me a little while to fully grasp that it happens and it's real and that's it. And it's just not something I expected for sure.
Sure. No, I mean, I get it. I mean, I went on my own a year ago. Different than running. I mean, how many employees does Eastern have now total?
110-ish.
Ish. That's
Yeah,
amazing. I mean, I run a party of me, but I mean, I'm a lot to handle. So I have a full time job just trying to manage myself. But it's like, well, who's going to do that? Crap. I guess that's me. Guess I need to write that.
Exactly, yes. But that's very challenging, Jesse. And that was very daring of you and very, it's a very brave thing to do because a lot of people want to keep it safe and not take big leaps like that. So I commend you for that. That's extraordinary. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I have, some good mentors in the industry and people like yourself who push me as well. So, um, uh, yeah, got a good support system, Nancy.
Yeah, it does take a village.
So, one of the topics that we talked about a couple years ago, well, 2.5 years ago now, that's crazy. It's been 30 months. Was DEI, I think was, it's still talked about now, but obviously 30 months ago was more of a, I hate to say buzzword, but
Hmm.
you know what I'm talking about. How do you
Yeah.
think we've come as an equipment finance industry? And do you mind talking about the metrics or stats of Eastern, and then kind of what you see now in equipment finance, if you don't mind?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, at Eastern Funding, we've been very intentional about our culture, which includes DEI, right? Because that's a component of the company culture. And so we are 63% minorities, and half, 50% of our mid-level, and I'm talking vice presidents, assistant vice presidents, team leaders, that level of management is 50% women and 50% minorities.
Okay.
So, and I think that's the critical level. That's the level we always got to worry about, because you can have a very diverse company, but in most organizations, the diversity is in entry level positions, and it doesn't go past mid level management.
Sure.
And actually, once I was promoted to president, we expanded our leadership team to include some of our vice presidents, and so now there's actually more diversity, because for a long time it was just me. Uh, and
Yeah,
now we have.
but you had multiple roles, so it counted twice.
Well, I counted as the woman and the minority. So,
Oh
but
no, I
now
was
we,
referring to COO plus whatever
yes,
else you were in charge. Yeah, yeah,
compliance and all this other stuff. I know.
exactly. So Nancy, we're half. We're
Yeah,
good.
exactly. But now we have other representation on the leadership team, which is wonderful, right? Because it's just about perspective. And so, what I see in the industry is that I think is twofold. There's definitely been an increase in the conversation, right? Because there was a time where I felt like I was bringing it up at every venue, and people were like, "Oh my God, this is new." And to me, it was amazing that people thought it was a new conversation.
So, really.
Yeah, so there's that part of it. So suddenly became more of a normalized mainstream conversation, which is great. On the other side of that coin is that I've also experienced more protectiveness around keeping status quo. And I think it depends who you're talking to, right? So I've definitely experienced firsthand being in a panel and someone really taking a defensive stand of, why do you want to change things? And I've also experienced having the most unexpected partners and supporters and allies in rooms, which is amazing, right? Someone like you giving me the platform to talk about this is amazing. You're one of the most well-known people in the industry. You have this, what is it, 160 episodes of the Fire Chat. You are incredibly well
Oh,
known, right?
thanks,
And you
Nancy.
have Equipment Finance Cares and all these amazing things that you're doing. And then you give us a platform to talk about these things. That's
Sure.
definitely us moving forward. That's definitely change. That's definitely inspiring, and it makes me feel hopeful. Same token, or sitting in a panel and having one of our industry leaders challenge me about the topics that I'm discussing in terms of DEI, pay equity, diversity, and why diversity is important. It does, set me back a little bit, I think emotionally at least. But there's definitely, I think there's so many more groups now that we have, the Equity Forum for one of those things, that now they're actually they've had two annual meetings. That's amazing. The Black Equipment Finance Network that has actually been invited to conferences, and we talk about it, and so it's wonderful to see those changes.
Sure.
But also to also add is that I also sit on a lot of different types of boards within the industry, and I don't always feel like the topic of DEI is welcome. Sometimes I feel like, oh, here goes Nancy again talking about DEI, and and so it's a fine line, and I tell you, sometimes for me personally, I get tired. I feel tired,
Sure.
and I take a break because of the fatigue of feeling like I'm alone in an island. Uh, but then I have a conversation with someone like you, and it makes me feel hopeful, and it makes me feel like there's things are changing, and it's amazing.
Well, you definitely, were one of the leaders in this industry, beating the drum to that. So don't lose your passion on it. We're making strides. I mean, every conference I go to, I see it becoming more and more diverse.
Hmm.
So I think we're on a good trajectory. Unfortunately, we didn't get here overnight, and it's not going to change overnight. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what, Jesse, ultimately is the people who are going to embrace it are going to make a change, and it's going to be for the right reasons, right? And the reasons are everything from, yes, it's the right thing to do, people should be treated equally, everybody should be given a fair chance, to it impacts the business positively. It increases the bottom line. It decreases risky decisions. It makes us more innovative. Like there's all these great reasons, all the right reasons, right? Whether it is because you're a person who's people centric like me, or whether you're a person that's completely business oriented and just wants to make more money. Either way, it is the right thing to do for your business. And so I think as people are learning, are opening up, are receiving the information. That's what I
sure.
mean to say. As they receive, they're open to the information, they're able to receive it, then the perspectives change. And I think that that's ultimately what's going to make the difference. But yes, I think we're moving in the right direction.
Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing that. And
Mhm.
instead of a fun fact about you, because I'm gonna change up the kind of last portion of this here, if you don't mind. So I don't know how many people in the industry know a project that you've been working on. I'm just going to show a quick little photo from my phone, and just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it and have you kind of talk about an upcoming release that you're about to have. So there you go. Many pieces of
Ah,
me, and check you out there. So obviously I've been privy to your book project that you've been working on with Paperclip. How is that, Nancy? Like, do you just want to just kind of give like a little overview of the many pieces of me and kind of what people can expect of? I mean, that's brave. I mean, you're already a brave woman as it is, but writing that down, putting it on paper, exposing it to the world, that's up there.
well, thank you. I have to say that actually seeing that on the screen, just like my entire body reacted to it. It was like, whoa, this is real. Uh, I, it, this is even more surreal than becoming president of Eastern Funding. I have to tell you that I started this book and it was really part of my therapy. It was really something that I was doing as part of my healing process, and, writing a narrative of these traumatic events that happened in my life, that were very impactful and definitely are also part of my purpose, I believe. And so as I connect with, my journey and what's my journey all about, and I embrace myself and I embrace
Ooh, there
um,
we go. Check you out. All right. Had to change it.
my life story, I wanted to, for me, I think it was important that there was a purpose to it, right? All this trauma, all this pain, all these things that have happened to me, and oftentimes people ask me like, how did you overcome that? Like, what did you do? And so the purpose of the book was really, once I decided to share it, it's really because I want other people to know that they can things can get better, that there's hope, that
Sure.
just because you were born into a certain family or a certain situation, or because your life circumstances, things happen to you, it doesn't dictate where you're going to end up. Like you can choose differently. And so, it was about, I poured my heart out in this book, in terms of, I'm completely transparent about my entire life, every traumatic event. I have PTSD that I'm still dealing with. Book number 2 is about my recovery. I'm starting EMDR, which is really hard therapy, but it's all this is the steps and how it all kind of unfolded, and how I ended up at this place where I was able to make these. Wow, there were really terrible things that happened, and decisions that I carried so much shame and guilt about. But then there were all these other great decisions that I made as well that changed the trajectory of my life, changed the trajectory of my kids' lives. I mean, it once upon a time, Jesse, I was on welfare and I could not imagine even owning a car or just just not having to worry about, are my kids going to have food tomorrow? And today to sit here and I'm like the president of a $1.4 billion, a company with $1.4 billion in assets is mind blowing. And as I talk about mental health and all these things, I talk about it from my heart because I've been fortunate enough that I have learned to understand my journey. I have learned to understand what happens, and I have learned to understand other people. But most of us, about 80% of people, are constantly on autopilot and have no real idea of what mental health is and what it plays, how it plays out in their lives. And so my goal is really to share the information to make it relatable and to help for people to be able to read a book, learn something from it, and it's not like a lot of the books that I read are about therapy are like very clinical and boring, and you really have to want to. But I wanted to create. I wanted the book to be relatable. It's a story of my life, and I'm actually talking about what I learned along the way, and hoping that people can take something away from it. So I'm really emotional right now because I saw it and it's just like, wow. But yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. And it is scary. I'm scared. Every time I think about it and think about exposing my entire inner world to everyone, it scares me, but it also, I feel so passionate about it. And I just want everyone to feel that there's a safe space where they can be authentic and they can be themselves and own their stuff without feeling the shame and guilt of who they are.
No, spot on. And reading the first version of this, I have not read the final version of this, just in full transparency. But excited for it to come out sometime in 2024, early 2024.
Hmm.
And can't wait to see what the response is, Nancy. So
Thank
yeah,
you. Me too. I'm really excited, and I'm hoping that at least it creates a platform for us to
yep,
talk about these things more and to just people have a safe space and normalize it and know that it's not who they are, is what they've experienced, and we can choose to change the course of our lives if we choose, if we're willing to do the work.
absolutely. And
Mhm.
from an inspiration perspective, I mean, from how you grew up to working your way up through it to now being the president, like you said, of a $1.4 billion worth of asset organization. Congratulations. And I know you're not going to settle. You're like, I know. Okay, what's next? What's next? How many doctorates can I get?
Well, hopefully this one I'll be done soon. So,
Okay. All right, Nancy. Well, thank you again for joining me. It's great
mhm.
to have you on the program again, and hopefully our paths cross sometime in the near future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate um, the platform. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate you surprising me like this because it really caught me, and I think I hopefully captured all the emotions that I felt because it was really beautiful to see, to share this moment with you. Thank you.
Absolutely, Nancy. We'll talk soon. Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Take care.
Thanks.
Okay.